Hello, Snugglebugs. Welcome to today's video. We're actually going to be talking about the Perils in Paradise, Hearthstone's newest expansion that they just announced earlier today. It looks like it's going to be coming out in July. The old scamp Marin has put his questing days behind him and is setting off on a new adventure, resort management. Tucked away in the beautiful Spiral Isles, the Marin is Azeroth's newest vacation getaway, and it is everything. Exciting entertainment, tourist traps, and some of Marin's old pirate buddies. Get packed and plan your itinerary. It's nearly time for Perils in Paradise. And it will launch on July 23rd with 145 new cards. And one of the new keywords they have here is tourist, and I will go over some of the cards in more detail, probably not even by scrolling down. I think I'm going to hop into looking at them in a bit more detail on their actual website here. But tourist, so here's a couple examples, are cards that allow you to effectively play dual class decks in deck building. So unlike the dual class cards of before, where you could just use the 3 cards, whatever it is, in either or, this lets you actually build a deck with different classes. So they're going to be hard to judge and how good they are, of course, because you don't know what all are going to be. And they are only for Perils in Paradise cards, so they get instantly added into your deck building interface. So as an example, we'll review the actual cards themselves in a minute. The Paladin and Rogue, so the Paladin will become a tourist card in Rogue. So if you go to build Rogue, I believe, and you pick the Sunsapper Lanessa here to put in your deck, you will also then be able to play Perils in Paradise Paladin cards in your Rogue deck as well as Rogue cards. And then you have your whole table here. So Rogue and Warlock, Warlock into Death Knight, Death Knight into Shaman, Shaman into Demon Hunter, Demon Hunter into Priest, Priest into Hunter, Hunter into Warrior, Warrior to Druid, Druid into Mage, Mage into Paladin. They're also coming out with, they said in the video, 6 refreshing drinks, so probably only half the classes are going to get these. They're kind of like the bananas and stuff in Hunter, where they're effectively 3-time use cards, which is kind of neat, but they're going to be bringing that out to more people, the idea being refills on your drinks. Then we have exciting, we're going to get new destinations. In this case, they're going to be able to reopen it with the hiking trails. Like I said, I'll go over them again here in detail. And then also, if you log in now, probably a couple hours ago by the time this video goes live, you can in fact get the login reward Marin the Manager. So let's take a look at the cards themselves that have been announced so far. So starting with Marin, as you can log in and actually play with this card today. So maybe I will, haven't actually played as much recently, just, it's been a bit since the latest expansion came out, but maybe I'll hop in and try to give this a shot. We have a 7-mana 6/6 card that, again, you have access to as of right now, or once you get the update. That is Battlecry. Choose a fantastic treasure, which is the same as the fantastic treasures with like Marin the Fox and things of old. Then you shuffle the other 3 into your deck. So you get a choice of all 4. So we have Zarog's Crown. These are probably going to be small, but discover a legendary minion, summon 2 copies of it. Toland's Goblet, which is draw a card, fill your hand with copies of it. Wondrous Wand, draw 3 cards, and they all cost 0. Or reduce their cost to 0. So it's not even like 0 this turn, just reduce their cost to 0. And then, of course, the Golden Kobold, which is a 3-mana 6/6 taunt that then changes your whole hand into legendary minions, which, in my opinion, is probably the weakest among them, but could be good in the right scenario. Honestly, I think this card's going to be just a ton of fun to play. Treasures are always in standard crazier than you might think. Getting something out like Battlecry, Marin the Manager on 10, maybe, and Zarog's Crown and 2 other legendary minions or something like that could be a really huge swing turn. I admit my first thought is maybe playing this in Highlander Warrior, where you get Bran, so you get 2 of them into your hand, and you get like 6 treasures into your deck to both play a longer game as well as get a bunch of really powerful cards. So I'm looking forward to trying this one. Let me know what your thoughts are. Then we have Corpse Sickle, which is a 2-mana deal 3 damage Death Knight spell. It's a frost spell. Deal 3 damage, spend 3 corpses to return this to your hand at the end of your turn. So it's like a never-ending damage effect for Frost to kind of let them keep going as long as you're doing corpses. So really, this could be one of the only spells you have to play, and then a bunch of minions and things that summon minions or reborn. So you can kind of choose Corpse Sickle to burn them down turn over turn, kind of like the Blood Field of Moarg of the past, but in Frost. I think this is going to be really good. I think it'll bring back possibly a Frost Death Knight playstyle of burn, but also not be super annoying because they're not going to be able to burn you over and over and over again like in one turn, or like burn you down. So I think that'll be neat. Oops. I mean, this is one. I was going to go to the the tourist first because it was next, but we have a 4 mana 3/3 battle cry for shaman, a little shimmy shaman, the cabaret headliner, which is battle cry reduce the cost of a spell in each school in your hand by 2. So I think this kind of comes into play where, especially if you're doing shaman death knight mix shenanigans with the tourist, which I guess we'll just show them here. We have buttons. So when you do this, you can actually build your shaman deck with death knight cards, which have a lot of different spell schools in them. So the cabaret card, I mean, shaman has a few different spell schools too, but that would actually allow you to get some massive mana discounts if you're also playing like your different death knight spell schools. So here we have a 5 mana 5/5. Again, I can't talk about how strong the actual card will be because we don't know what all of the shaman and death knight cards and stuff are going to be in the expansion. However, this will be fun, being able to use 2 different decks of deck building. And battle cry, draw spells of each spell school. So again, you could easily have 4 or 5 of them in your deck when you're combining the 2 classes. And then, maybe you draw them all, and then the next turn you play a cabaret, or depending on how much mana you have, you play 2 of them, and you got a handful of super cheap, super awesome spells. Naturally, I'm going to say that just sounds strong in combination. Even a 5 mana 5/5 draw, say 2 or even 1 would be played, but say 2 would be super strong. The fact that I feel like you're going to get almost a Magatha style effect if you build your deck with this in mind is, I think it's just going to be played in that. Plus, you got to think you can just play this in Death Knight. So this could just be a 5 mana 5/5 Death Knight card that makes you draw a bunch. Pretty useful. Then we have our first beverage that they've released so far, which is the Malted Magma. 2 mana, deal 1 damage to all enemies, so that includes the enemy hero's face. And then 3 drinks left. Now, this could be used with a bunch of spell damage burst. It looks like it does damage to face because it says all enemies. So when you think about it, let's say I can't imagine you ever being able to go super all out, but let's say, you're playing a board-based deck, wide, maybe your opponent can't clear, you use something to give your board like spell damage. I forget what the name of that's called off the top of my head now. And then all of a sudden you Malted Magma 3 times. It's a board clear, plus it hits their face. Probably isn't worth it because there's better direct face damage, but it definitely helps clear the board. I think this is just going to be good because you can use it as many times as you need. Now, 2 mana deal 1 damage like as a whirlwind effect, but it doesn't hit your own minions, I guess, but still a whirlwind effect isn't the best, but can slow down things like Paladin, which is also pretty useful. Next up, we have a new Paladin weapon called Volley Maul, which is a volleyball hammer maul. And then after your hero attacks, get a 1-cost sunscreen that gives +1/+2. So it's just a board buffing sunscreen card and a 3 mana 3/2 weapon. I think it's pretty good. I mean, 3 mana 3/2 weapon's not bad. And then the sunscreens are going to be able to place on other things. Of course, the fact they're 1 mana makes this probably weaker than, like, say, the hand buff weapon or things like that. But makes it versatile. You can then play the sunscreens whatever you want to protect them from the heat. Oop, why does it do that? Then we have the Rogue Tourist. So this is the Paladin card that you can play in Rogue to give you access to Paladin cards. And it's your spells that cost 2 or less cast twice. Can't tell you how good this could be in Rogue. They already do really well with cheap spells. Imagine you play this in the current, because again, I can only think of what they currently play, but you play this in like the current Diggy Diggy Jar Jar Do Rogue, and you get a bunch of cheap spells off the Scorpion. Then you wait until, maybe you have 4 of them that are 1 mana or whatever. You play the Sun Sapper Linessa down, you play all of them, and they activate twice, and then you probably just do something like break dance the Linessa or whatever to get it back. I feel like that could be really powerful. And then, of course, because you could also play Paladin spells, things like your Sunscreen would activate twice, or we don't know what other Paladin spells are coming from the expansion, but presumably more buff spells would happen twice and stack on top of each other like crazy. Again, I can't even tell you how good this card's going to be, but it already feels like it's going to be really good. Next up, we have the new location for Druid, which is called the Hiking Trail. which is a 3-mana location with 3 durability, which discovers a taunt minion. But then after you gain armor, you can reopen it. So in theory, you could just play it. Now, it doesn't say it doesn't reopen per normal rules. So I'm going to have to assume that it still would open itself every 2 turns. But let's say you have a taunt armory style deck. You could discover a taunt minion, so maybe potentially play that taunt minion. Next turn, gain armor, reopens it, discover a taunt minion, play a taunt minion. Or maybe you played a minion that died, gave you armor, it dies off, this reopens, you get yourself another taunt, etc. Overall, I mean, a 3-mana discover 3 minions is pretty good. The reopen is just going to be kind of a niche use case that we might see from time to time, but I think that's a pretty strong card just in general. And in the past, at least, Druid has been pretty good with taunt minions. So if they're going to be coming out with more taunty-related support for this, I think it'll be good. Next up, we actually have a card I'm kind of interested in because it could open up some really unique scenarios. It is a 2-mana 2/2 travel agent. It's a pirate, and its battle cry is discover a location from any class. Now, of course, that means that the discover pool is actually going to be pretty large. It's hard to play around what you want, but it'll give you opportunity to play around with some other weird combos. Maybe you're playing Paladin, and it gives you that Druid that we found, and then because you're a Paladin, it should only offer you Paladin taunt minions from the pool, or neutrals, which could be interesting, right? So, I don't know. I think anytime they give you an option to discover stuff like this, it can be pretty nutty. 2-mana 2/2 isn't the worst, plus 2-mana 2/2 that kind of discovers you something is value. I think this will be played in like Highlander decks and stuff, but I'm not sure about everything. But it's a pretty strong, like it's a pretty good card. I don't know if. Then we have a 6-mana 6/4 Weapons Attendant, which is battle cry. If you control another pirate, equip a random weapon from your deck. If it wasn't so expensive, maybe, you know. I feel like the stats on this aren't fantastic. The if you control another pirate being in here makes it so you have to be ahead or have your weapon. Yeah, I'm personally not thinking this is it. I still think pirates need more support, and I think this is. I could be wrong. Maybe they're gonna come out with some super awesome like must-play weapon that makes this like a really good tutor type thing, but I'm not seeing the strength in this one. 6-mana 6/4 with a ruled in order to get the battle cry effect just seems like it's going to be too weak. Another card, though, that I think we'll see quite a bit of play, depending on how good the other drink spells are, of course, is this Drink Server. A 2-mana Murloc Pirate, 2/2, with Death Rattle, get a random drink with all 3 uses. Again, we don't know what all the drinks are going to be, but at the very least, we feel like Malted Magma could be pretty good. It's value. If the other drinks are even decently good, just the fact it gives you those options and things like that are pretty strong. Again, I don't know. You might not ever want to play 2 of these per se, but 2-mana 2/2 with value isn't bad. Kind of like the location card. I think you might see some of these played as tech choices or in Highlander decks and things like that. And then last but not least, we have another legendary they announced today. It's AFK, which people probably know from before, or if you play Battlegrounds and things, which is a 5-mana 0/5. At the end of your turn, give all other friendly minions that didn't attack +2/+2. So in the video, just to kind of show off what they did, now they had 10 mana when they did this, is they played AFK, and then they played the card that, summons 5 rush minions and Death Knight. They ended their turn, the Death Knight minions all got +2/+2. My take on this, honestly, I don't think it's very strong. And I say that because, again, I think the video that they try to showcase was its power, right? Was, hey, if you summon this with a wave of minions, you're going to get +2/+2 on everything. But even if we look at what they probably thought was one of the better use case scenarios, which is late game, which means at 5 mana, it's probably not great, because then the minions you have on the board can't attack to get buffed. You're still looking at, okay, well, you spent, what was it, 10 mana? And I'm just trying to think, like I said, best case scenario, and it was like 5/4/4s, which is pretty good, and a 0/5. I feel like, because there's already 5/2/2s on the other side, like, there's probably just better buff cards or better cards to play. I mean, it makes it so your opponent has to kill it, but again, a lot of other 5 cost cards or buffers, they'd have to do that too, so I'm not seeing it. Let me know if there's a combo or something I'm not thinking of in the comments down below. But I can't see AFK being very good. It definitely didn't feel like a, like thematically it makes sense with their vacation and all that kind of stuff, but I'm just not seeing it. So maybe let me know in the comments down below if you can think of a viable deck strategy that would want to have a card on here that can't attack and make your minions not be able to attack either. I don't know. Anyway, that's my thoughts. I'm excited to review some cards as they come up, and then of course I'll want to play them as they come out. I may come out with a deck video or two after a while on Marin. Let me know what your thoughts are on these down below, and I'll see you in the next one.